Hello and welcome to Tech Circle. This is Vignesh Anantraj and you're listening to another episode of Tech This Week, a weekly analysis of major developments in startups and enterprise technology ecosystems in India. With me are my colleagues Supriya and Anand, and starting off, there was this development past week to do with the speculative shutting down of Stellaris Venture Partners, backed content sharing platform Munch. Supriya, can you give me some details about that front, and am I pronouncing that right, Munch?
Yeah, Munch.
Okay.
Like the stage Munch in Hindi. So this is a fairly well-funded startup. Munch, it started operations back in 2018. Now the platform, according to me, comes closest to this global community of meme creators and content generators called 9gag, if you've heard of it. Now I think the only separating or USP part of what Munch was or is that it's vernacular. It caters to the very the kind of content that India's internet savvy crowd has been catering to in the past few days, which is video, variety and vernacular. A Livement report earlier in the week said that the startup is at the verge of shutting down operations, and I had a word with the co-founder, Preetham Roy. He said that he has no comments to offer on the particular matter here. However, his LinkedIn profile interestingly shows that he's moved on from the company in September last year, and he's gone on to join Cred, which is Kunal Shah's fintech.
So what went wrong with Munch?
Like, getting to what really went wrong. Now, Vignesh, let's look at the larger picture here. Let's look at how content or social media platforms, which it becomes at the end of the day, really has been out there. So I think Facebook comes to everyone's mind that way. And if you trace back the entire business of content or social media back into the late 90s, it constitutes a lot of hits and misses that way. So you can't really say that Facebook got something right which MySpace didn't. Perhaps Facebook appeared in a market at the right time, and it managed to surpass MySpace in such speed that nobody could ever. So in many ways, like I said, it's a lot of hits and misses. Yeah, and the media report I was referring to also quoted an industry executive who said that Munch per se did not have enough number of users, and so that part of the table, I think, went on to the downfall of the entire community, which constitutes of two sides. There's the content generators and also the content and the demand side of it, which clearly is not a problem in India's tech savvy or internet savvy market. Now, the way that internet penetration is expanding, and especially with smartphones becoming cheaper and very omnipresent in that way, there's no dearth of content consumers, so that argument in that way also stands pretty well in its place. And a year ago, you can also find out a lot of social media posts to do with Munch hiring media school graduates to try and generate their creative content. So yeah, only a voluntary community can save a business like that, but that way I guess it failed.
Supriya, content business is a long-term game. It needs patient capital until it establishes a strong and thriving user base that can be monetized. So we believe Munch clearly failed to attract enough users and investors. So moving on, some interesting news from the Auto Expo that is taking place in Noida till the 12th. And it already had a slew of interesting car launches, but the highlight of the expo was a number of electric vehicles. There were electric cars, there were electric two-wheelers, and guess what else was electric there?
People?
No, we had electric buses.
Okay. We had to get there, but okay.
So Mahindra showcased new electric buses, and there were new entrant also called Electra, which also showcased electric buses. But when it comes to electric vehicles, there is a lot of interest generated from all of the geeks and the tech enthusiasts. Do you know why?
Okay, that sounds very generalized, but I'd like to know why you'd say that.
Because most of these electric vehicles, a large percentage of the electric experience depends on technology. Mostly IoT and big data. So what is interesting is there was this two-wheeler company called Evo Lettered, whose electric arm of Gurugram-based Risala Electric Motors, who release bikes which are IoT enabled.
So Vignesh, how does IoT and big data really click so well in the automotive space?
Before I come to that, Evolet unveiled 5 new models of electric vehicles. This is backed by IoT, and even Hero Electric also revealed a couple of vehicles which are IoT enabled. And coming to your question, the data collected from these IoT sensors can do wonders if utilized for the greater good. For example, with the data collected, and if you crunch it the right way, you can understand rider behavior better. You can know the status of the bike, whether it has any parts that are malfunctioning or any parts that need replacement. It will also be used to create a whole community of vehicle manufacturers and users who can learn from each other and ultimately provide a great riding experience. Do you remember how many IT experts keep talking about a connected world? Like, it is a talk of town right now. We have blockchain, we have distributed ledgers, we have everybody creating cohorts, ecosystems to bring everybody together. So well-connected vehicles are going to be a step towards a connected world. Even MG Motor India showcased its sport utility vehicle Marvel X, which is called the world's first mass production model to achieve level 3 intelligent driving. I can't believe level 3 intelligent
wait
driving
up on
is
that.
already.
What is level 3 intelligence?
So this is really cool. Okay, level 3 intelligent vehicles refers to cars that can steer, accelerate or decelerate without human input.
Oh.
So luxury automaker Audi's A8 is one example of a level 3 intelligent vehicle. And other than that itself is pretty exciting. Other than that, Marvel X comes up with integrated internet, electric and autonomous capabilities. MG Hector's car Marvel X comes with integrated internet, electric and autonomous capabilities. And I don't really know how true this is, but it's been enabled with augmented reality maps, which makes navigation precise and visual. And do you know how exactly it can help you with parking? Can you take a guess?
I guess it parks itself, Vignesh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It allows the vehicles to autonomously find a parking bay and park itself. Now I don't know whether to take that literally or whether it's just going to guide you on the parking method better. But I always think that if you can have a car that parks itself in Bengaluru, you'll have the bestseller ever in the history of India.
How is technology going to give me the space?
That's not for something that MG Hector needs to worry about. Okay, moving on. So Supriya, there was this 8 million worth seed stage investment of a startup that just emerged off of its stealth mode. Dot. This company helps offline stores reach online capabilities. How exactly are they helping them achieve that?
Yeah, so this startup claims to have a first mover advantage, Vignesh. Now the service offerings to the face of it appears very generic, nothing out of the blue. But it gets very interesting when the company really combines all of these very obvious services that an offline store could really benefit off of to increase their sales. Now I spoke to Shailaz Nag, one of the co-founders in the whole PayU India executive trio in the co-founding team of the startup. Now he said that the company will offer digital solutions to these brick and mortar retail outlets. One thing is to increase their sales, and second thing is also to optimize their business operations. Yeah, so there's a lot of things happening here. Shaila said that the way that they go about creating this whole digital ecosystem for offline mom and pop stores will be using a lot of apps integrations. That there'll be usage of Google, Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of other bank and payment apps, and WhatsApp as well, he mentioned interestingly. So all of these apps, they will try and acquire and engage customers for these offline stores on an online medium, and thereby also increase revenue by this reselling and cross-selling and through the entire digitalization of the processes. Now he also explained the whole possibility of replacing the hard copy bills that we get at these offline stores. Now he said he gave me a very interesting idea as to how users could perhaps opt for purchase refunds or exchanges via say something as simple in an interface as WhatsApp, as opposed to you and I going and standing at the queues and trying to get our refunds or exchanges done at say Zara.
And apart from such customer support capabilities, what other services does Dot provide?
So Shaila said that the product offerings will also include deliveries, online payments and customized online marketing campaigns for these offline retailers. Yeah, also InfoEdge's Bikshant Nani, so the InfoEdge venture fund which they recently announced also was a part of the investment round at Dot. And Sanjeev said that Dot has identified an unimportant untapped market segment. So also interestingly, this marks the second investment by the IVF fund. But getting back to my point, the last time I heard this entire offline to online strategy was from Reliance's end, which is yet to really make things official with getting the whole community of offline retailers and getting them online and trying to maximize their sellers. But something like what Dot is claiming to do is, I think, very niche in a sense.
I would not specifically call it niche because many of the big time retailers are looking to break down that wall between offline and
I mean, the idea is really there, but what I'm saying is all these service offerings under one umbrella is something what I'm looking at when I'm calling
from that perspective, it does seem interesting. Let's see how they pan out. And we're shifting gears. We are moving on to the Q4 results of Cognizant. And Anand will do a deeper analysis on that front. On IT major Cognizant has released its results for the fourth quarter ending December. And it seems they have actually beaten estimates. So Anand has more on this. So Anand, how has Cognizant performed for this quarter?
So, I mean, they have beaten industry expectations, but that doesn't necessarily mean their performance was good. So, if you look at their numbers, their Q4, the December quarter, was actually one of their slowest growing quarters in a long time. So, the company has performed at a much lower growth rate than, say, its competitors like Indian companies like TCS and Infosys, and even to some extent other smaller companies like HCL and Wipro. So in fact, its projected growth rate is actually even slower at 2 to 4% for this calendar year 2020, which is again the slowest the company has ever projected. So that's a bit alarming.
So what are some of the industries that are actually pulling it down?
So, I mean, in general, the IT sector has seen a lower BFSI, banking, financial services and insurance spending, as well as in retail sector as well. But for Cognizant, I mean, it has a very high reliance on BFSI as well as healthcare. And in the US, healthcare has also slowed down a bit. So because of that, the company is kind of in a double whammy situation where 75%, the verticals that contribute almost 63% of the company's revenue are growing at 1.5%. So that has dragged down the overall revenue. But what is even more troubling for the company is that its growth in North America is again much slower at a time when US economy is growing at a very good pace.
So Anand, you're saying that Cognizant has been bogged down by this slowdown in the healthcare and the BFSI verticals. But how does it compare to its close competitors?
See, all IT companies have been affected by this slowdown in the BFSI and retail verticals as well as healthcare. But the problem is others have managed to still grow at a faster clip because of their growth being much better in verticals such as communications, telecom, engineering services and so on. But for instance, TCS grew its revenue by 6.7% from a much higher base, and Infosys grew its revenue by around 8%.
Double of what Cognizant did.
So considering that fact, and overall the industry grows by around roughly between 7.5 to 9.5% on an average annually. So the Cognizant growth rate projection of 2 to 4% is less than half of the industry growth, which should be a big problem for the company in the coming year.
So let's see how Cognizant comes out of this mess. And thanks Anand and thanks Supriya for being a part of this podcast. And with that, we come to an end of this edition of Tech This Week. Catch us again next week for more interesting enterprise and startup news analysis.